Hey, it's Kyle, and I wanted to give a unbiased review of the Lymow One Plus. I spent my own money on this machine, and I did a bunch of research beforehand. I watched a bunch of YouTube videos, and one thing I noticed is most of the reviews online are units that were given to people, and they kind of set it up real quick with one zone. I, as a homeowner, am setting up multiple zones, and I've had a few issues with the software. So stick with me and check out this video if you are considering the One Plus, so that you can get a better idea of how easy or difficult it might be to map this to your particular yard. The first thing that I would like to point out is that you need to make sure that your RTK system has a very strong signal. I'm in the backyard right now, and this is the pole. It's probably about 5 feet tall total. And their only instructions show that you have to have this minimally 7 feet from a house, staring at the sky. You can see this particular location. I'm on the corner of the house in the backyard here, and I thought this would be a great spot. These are wired, and I didn't want the wires crossing our patio or in walkways, creating trip hazards. So you're a little constrained in where you can put it. But I will tell you, this did not work very well. I had decent signal strength in the backyard, but the opposite corner of the house had more than 1 meter of accuracy, meaning it's normally like centimeter type accuracy or better. That caused mapping problems. And when you have mapping problems, you have to delete everything and start over. That would be my biggest recommendation. To get it better, what I wound up doing is I mounted the RTK. I guess you can't see it right now. Let me walk around here. I mounted the RTK to our pergola. So look at that. It's right up there. It's above everything in the backyard. It's further out into the blue sky. And then I was able to take the mower to the other corner of the house and check the signal strength before I did any more mapping. And if you take one thing from this video, that will save you a bunch of time. Make sure that your signal strength is very strong before you really start pulling everything together. Now, the robot is right there. The other thing for placement of the base station, I had originally put it more into the mulch bed. And the very first time I went to pull it out, it just drug a boatload of mulch from the bed out onto the patio. So you might notice the very edge of the dock is on the patio, and that this way it's just hardscape in and out. Now it has its own channel or route to get to the grass from here, but that I have learned makes things much cleaner. So you'll save some time, and you'll save yourself some cleanup if you follow those two things. Now let's move on to the software, because I feel like the software has some large disadvantages right now. I'm going to try to overlay the screen here while I talk, but there are some features when you're mapping that include combining zones, splitting zones, or even just modifying some of the boundaries themselves. And those features are not available yet for the Lymow One Plus. So what I've found is if I have a problem with a map, I have to delete it and remap. And that's consuming a bit of time. So let me show you some of the video from me programming this thing. I'm currently on day 3, and I still have a few troublesome areas for my yard. But stay tuned, take a look, and I hope this helps in your decision-making process or your programming process. When you go to make a corner, rather than a big arc, what I found works best for this zone is to just have it turn like that. And that way, when I mark out my zones, they're nice and square. And what I notice is the robot kind of does like a little 3-point turn in the corners anyway. You might be able to see this line. I'm overlapping one little stripe between these two, and hopefully once I get up to this corner, it'll complete this zone. I am a little bit worried that I didn't see my breadcrumb trail, and it may not take, but we'll see. Of course it didn't take. All right, let's go for this again. Now I think I slowed this thing down for programming and forgot to speed him back up. Now he's only a few feet away, and I think you can still hear me. It's really not that loud. It's not even as loud as a hair dryer. Maybe like a running fan. Yeah, it's not bad. Now I tried to map this area yesterday, and you can see how narrow it is. It's about 1.5 times the width of the mower, maybe about 2 feet of grass here. The trouble is when I make a pass up and down this way, it doesn't recognize it as a valid space. It says it's too small. The area is too small. When I Googled it online, try to get around this here. Come on. Come on. Why are you not? There we go. There we go. When I Googled it, it was saying that it is just too narrow of a space. That these robots want maybe 4 feet of width in order to map it. So what I'm going to do is I am mapping the whole front yard here, including this little strip. And then I'm going to try to add a keep out zone for the sidewalk and see if that allows it to cut that strip. Stay tuned. All right, now we've got one more channel to go through, and the sidewalk is a keep out zone. So it should be able to just run across. There we go. All right. Now it's adjusting the deck height to the cutting height. I think you heard it say that it's starting. And I am hopeful. Interesting. So it got this far. Error occurred. Navigational error. Move to a new position and retry. All right, so it's been acting up a little bit, so I wanted to try to see if I can capture it here on video. Trying to map a no-go zone, and see how it just stopped there? Didn't ask it to, so it'll periodically either stop or stumble, and it seems to take a second or two for the controls to get back in. See, like right there. All right. So I am trying to program no-go zones for this sidewalk. Now I am going to allow this to be off far enough that I can mow around this without having to worry about it. So I don't mind if the mower winds up being half on, half off. Come on. This way it'll keep, see, it just keeps stopping there. Little annoying, and makes your maps a little bit more jerky rather than smooth. But I'm hoping that I can actually get this mapped in now. This strip to the right is, come on. The strip to the right is just too narrow for it to be its own zone. It didn't like it. They want, I think, a minimum of about 4 feet for a zone. And that's only about 2. So you can see it's pausing a lot here. All signals are good except for Wi-Fi at the moment. So I'm not sure what to say about that. I haven't seen anyone really show this part, so I'm hoping this is helpful for somebody. Nice. Now again, it thinks there's grass there because of how I had to map it. But if I didn't include some of that sidewalk, for some reason I can't mow that little triangle in the front of the mailbox there by the driveway. I'm hoping this is going to go and take a look. Did it say recharge? Uh-oh. I need to check this. Now I tried to have it mow across the driveway, and for some reason now it won't pass the mailbox. I've got a keep out zone for the mailbox and a keep out zone for the sidewalk. When it was just mowing, it did go around the mailbox rather nicely, but it's look at this. It is having some serious issues. I'm not sure why. It's gone around this a few times before. Could have made it.
System error. Please check the app for details. Then try clearing the error to resume mowing.
Yeah. Hard enough to mow that little patch of grass, and impossible for me to mow that patch. Come on, Lymow. Need you to get on this. So here we are again. I am trying to mow around this transformer here. On the other side, we've got a big, nice square of grass. So I made that its own zone, and they're abutting each other. But you can see the lot line here. It's really the thickness of one of the robot. So I'm trying to add a channel between these two, but you see it's on the edge, and every time I try to add a channel, it gives me an error. It wants the robot to be in the center of a zone, to go into the center of another zone. There's no specification on how far in, but I only have this one channel, and it faults every time. Now, if I come over here, I have a similar issue where that is one robot thickness between that transformer and that cable marker there. So again, I am not able to cut this entire patch of grass, and nor am I able to cut this patch of grass right now. Okay, so here is a random Lymow rant after a second day of mapping. I've mapped most areas, believe it or not, multiple times. I think the front yard I've now mapped 7 times. Having difficulty with some smaller areas because of keep out zones and some random stuff like the mailbox and a transformer at the front of the property. It's been hard to get some of the front areas mapped. Now, what I've seen online is people basically show like one zone and, going back to the station, and that's pretty basic. What you may not know is that you have to have channels between zones. What you also may not know is we've got an almost 1-year-old. So spending 3 hours remapping while the child is screaming is not the best use of my time today. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to live to fight another day with the maps. Still not operating correctly for our yard right now. But just wanted to give a little bit of feedback. It's been frustrating. The software has buttons for merge zones and split zones, as well as modify. It almost looks like you could use your finger to touch the corners or whatever. Funny thing is, all 3, when you touch them, are not available yet. Maybe in a future release, but it seems like the Lymow 1, the older version, had that already. So I don't know why, but the only thing I can do is delete an entire map, or restore an old one that I have. So that's been a little bit cumbersome.